Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Barbershop Talk podcast, where the conversation may start with us, but it finishes with you guys. Starting up with the episode, we have a lot of news in the NBA as it's coming to a close on the 14th, and we're going to be discussing the play-in tournament, playoff matchups, MVP race, the Rookie of the Year race, and all the stats and all the matchups we currently discuss will be as of April 10th. So with that being said, let's go ahead and roll it.
There's a sea of podcasts out there, and they keep getting more scripted and more rehearsed. Well, trust me, my friends, that'll never be the case here. This is Barbershop Talk. Honest, real, raw, unfiltered, and straight from the heart. We speak our minds, and if that's a problem, we won't apologize. With Phil's background in sports stats and his addiction to pop culture, along with Jem's extensive sports knowledge, they're the perfect duo. Yeah, you'll hear them hurling some insults, probably debating about the dumbest details, but it's about the fun, baby. So whether you're into sports, politics, entertainment, or just want to eavesdrop on some craziness, you're in the right place. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Barbershop Talk News, on YouTube at Barbershop Talk, and for the latest podcast highlights, hit up Barbershop Talk Clips. Welcome to Barbershop Talk, and now your hosts, Philip and Jim.
All right, so starting off, we have a brief intro of the matchups. We have the play-in tournament as of right now. A preview of the matchups for the play-in tournament. We have the Lakers playing the Warriors. We have the Suns playing the Kings in the West. The play-in matchups on the East side will be the Bulls versus the Hawks and the 76ers versus the Heat. But what we'll start off with for these playoffs, I just want to get your take on maybe a dark horse for each conference.
Well, I've liked Oklahoma City from the beginning of the year. I just I picked them. Remember that they could actually come out of the West, and they're actually pretty close. I'm an old guy who plays basketball, and when I see young guys like that, I think they'll be able to run teams like the Lakers, Warriors, and the older Suns. They'll be able to run them out of the gym. I don't know whether they'll beat Denver. Minnesota can be a lock, but I mean, Chet Holmgren's an absolute baller, and they've just got a lot of young talent, and they can run, and just remains to be seen whether their coach can take them the distance. But I think they're the team and the team of the future in the West.
So that's your dark horse.
Yeah, that's my dark horse.
And I think the main issue people have with the Thunder, even though they have a guy like Chet Holmgren who has really opened up that entire offense and an MVP candidate, probably number 2 or number 3 in a lot of people's mind, really bolster that team's chances. But in the first round, they're playing the Pelicans. They're playing like probably everyone's unobserved. They're my actual dark horse in the Western Conference, where if you're a great team like the Thunder, the last team I would want to play personally is the Pelicans. The season series with them across this season, they played them 3 total times, and the Thunder won 2 of the 3, and the Pelicans lost the 1. In the 1 loss, Zion didn't play. In the 2 wins, Zion did play, and one of them was really, really, really close. The one that was very close, they had C.J. McCollum drop over 20. They had Zion drop over 20. And they also had Valanciunas score just about 20 points. So I think the key to them winning that series is having not just 2 scorers, having the X factor to me in the entire playoffs, that Trey Murphy III. I think at the very least, the Pelicans are going to give them a much better series than people realize. And I think the people are counting out the Pelicans before the playoffs even start. They got those 2 dependent scorers, C.J. McCollum and Zion, as long as Zion's healthy, but he's been lighting it up the past 10 games going into the playoffs. And I think that X factor for the whole series is going to be that 3rd scorer. And if it's not the 3rd, it'll be Trey Jones putting up 15, and then Valanciunas, whatever the guy's name is, putting up.
Do 20-15. Not that he always does, but he's just capable of those type of games.
Exactly.
That would be my dark, if you want to call it a dark horse. The Thunder were my dark horse. But the Pelicans are clearly a team, the other team that I think that could go deep. When Zion is going, I mean, I haven't seen any team when he wants to play and when he goes hard, I haven't seen any team that can stop him. The question is, can he, the playoffs might be good for him if he's playing 35, 40 minutes a night. 3 or 4 nights a week, he might get might get in game shape, and he might be able to finish games. I also love McCollum. McCollum's a gamer. He can go. He can put up 35 in a big game. He's always been a money player. That's Chunas, I think his name is. I like him too. I like his little inside game. I think he's a more than capable player. Maybe a little bit weak on the defense. Yeah, I think they're. I think. Thunder comes out of that series. Hopefully they don't play each other because I'd like to see both of them. I'd like to see both of those teams start to go against the older teams like the Suns, Lakers, Warriors, and Kings versus Suns. That's another interesting one. If the season ends today, you don't really know because they're all pretty close right now. But if the Kings were to play the Suns, I'd like to watch that series too because. The Kings can run you out of the gym too, you know what I mean? And the Suns are old,
No, the only problem with that series is the winner of that, because they're at 7th and 8th right now, the winner of that plays the Nuggets, and I feel like if you're in the West, that is the last team you want to avoid the Nuggets until the Western Conference Finals if possible. You're almost like the Suns or the Kings are probably playing to lose at that point. They want to win. They're going to play the winner or loser of the Lakers Warriors as of right now. Okay. So
either way, I think the Nuggets, the Nuggets can take any team coming out of the play-in. The Kings can give anybody problems if they get going and they get running, but I don't think they're as good as they were last year. I think he healed. I think that loss hurt him a little bit. They just lost a little bit of shooting there. And so I don't know that they're going to be able to do what they do. I do feel comfortable saying that they're capable of beating any of the other 3 teams in the play-in. But beyond that, I don't know if they're going anywhere. Mavericks, I don't think them or the Clippers are really a threat. Neither one of them is. You just need to be a team, and you need to play defense. And neither one of those teams. I mean, Kawhi's a good defender, but. Kawhi might decide to sit, you know what I mean?
No, Kawhi doesn't sit during the playoffs.
It's that time of year. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And he's also,
we'll see. He's already starting to sit. His knee's bothering him a little bit, so we'll see what happens there.
And in terms of picking a dark horse for the Western Conference, it's almost impossible. Like, let's say the Lakers, they're currently sitting at the 9th seed. If they magically go on a run and all of a sudden they face the Timberwolves and they're coming in, all of a sudden everyone's like, hey, the Lakers, it's like they're coming of age, you know what I mean? Yeah, they're playing like they should. The Warriors, they still have they're probably the true only team in the Western Conference that they have Steph Curry, but in all actuality, their team might not be as talented. But the Suns, the Kings, name a team in the West aside from maybe the Pelicans, but even they have Zion. Any team that goes on a run, including the Lakers, they still got LeBron, Davis, Russell. Like, every team is absolutely loaded. Any team that goes on a run, it's almost like, well, what is that? Unexpected? The Suns have been terrible and inconsistent to say the least. If they go on a run, they got the best scorer in the league. They probably have a top 3 other scorer in the league: Durant, Booker, and Beal. Maybe not necessarily this year, but before this year, if he starts playing like he should, that should be expected as well. You know what I mean?
I know, but can the Suns be a dark horse with
what I'm saying.
3 top 10 players in the league?
That's why the only dark horse.
Beal one, but Booker, man, that in the playoffs, that guy went on fire last year. So, but I just don't think of them. You can't consider like Clippers, Mavericks, Suns, especially the Clippers and the Suns. You can't consider them dark horses because, how do you consider Durant, Booker, and Beal a dark horse, and Harden, Kawhi, and what's their other top 50? Oh, Paul George,
and they got Russ coming off the bench.
how do you consider that a dark horse? So the Thunder, I guess, we can agree that would be the legitimate dark horse that they could go on a roll with Zion.
No, but the Thunder or the Pelicans?
I'm sorry, the Pelicans.
Exactly. To me, the only true dark horses that could come out and be called dark horses in the Western Conference would be the Kings, which no one's really expecting anything out of the Kings.
Yeah.
And the Pelicans, who they still have Zion, but at the end of the day, CJ, Zion, and Trey Murphy, in comparison to the rest of the West, that to me is a legitimate dark horse. But that could still maybe even upset their first-round matchup. In terms of a team most likely that I would just not want to play, especially on the run they're going recently, I would have said the Mavericks, and now I see them matching up against the Clippers. That's what I've been saying the last month is, look, if the Mavericks keep it within 5, it's almost like the Nets from a few years ago when they had Durant, Irving, and Harden. If they kept it within 5 in the fourth quarter, there's a chance they'll win by 15. They know how to handle their games. Now that they're playing the Clippers, all of a sudden you got Kawhi and Paul George locking up Doncic and Kyrie. Maybe not necessarily locking up, but they have the matchups there. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a nightmare matchup for the Mavericks, who probably, as a 5th seed and out, like they're playing absolutely out of their mind towards the end of the season, moving up their seed from way back where it was 2 months ago. They worked all this way to become the 5th seed and maybe move up, and they're going to end up, to me, with the worst matchup they could possibly have in the first round of the playoffs.
That'll be a fun one to watch too. Mm-hmm. Both those teams both those teams have that same capability. If you're within 5, and you got Kawhi, Harden, and Paul George, you can bombs away too. So.
But I think every single team is hoping for a road to the Western Conference Finals that avoids the Nuggets. However, I think the most likely team to beat the Nuggets would be the Timberwolves with those big giant trees just in the middle of the paint.
They struggle with that. That's and Jokic even said that. He said that I don't know why, because he usually keeps it pretty close to the vest, but he said he's the one team that he least likes to play is the Timberwolves, just because they have those big jumbos.
No, exactly, and I mean, even give credit to the Lakers and Anthony Davis. He's considered a top defender. He relatively struggles against Anthony Davis, and all of a sudden you're going to play the Timberwolves if that ends up happening.
Yeah, they
got 2 trees underneath, and I think that, to me, is the only team that can beat the Nuggets in the West this year, regardless of how stacked every other team is. When they're rolling, when they're playing that with that 1-2 game with Jamal Murray and Jokic, Jamal Murray being the point guard, I mean, they're just impossible to beat.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Eastern Conference. Actually, before we move on, so your favorites to win the West, I assume, would be the Nuggets?
The Nuggets, I wouldn't mind if the Thunder went, but I would pick the Nuggets if I was going to have to pick a team.
Let's do something.
No big science there, but but I've liked them for 3 or 4 years.
For sure. No, to me, way back when they won the bubble tournament, I was telling my old friend who's from Denver, they didn't win that year, but I was like, dude, they're either up next or it better be soon. If they don't win soon, there's something going on with that coach or something like that, because that team was developing like you couldn't believe. And
I'm still not crazy about their coach. I think, Jokic is running the team, but they seem to have figured it out. And I also think like Jamal Murray is probably the most underrated superstar in the league. Mm-hmm. He's even lost some of his hops, and he can still score. You know what I mean? So.
But in terms of impact, that team's not the Nuggets without Jokic. So as much as we could credit, credit the coach, obviously. I think the players obviously like to play for him and everything like that. But the impact he has on the floor, not only being a top offensive player in the league, it's every other superstar. You could look at Kyrie or even Luka, or in some cases Durant. All like the superstars are scorers with him. With all the superstars being scorers, you could look at their teammates sometimes just kind of sit there with their hands by their side, and they know, okay, Kyrie's in his bag. He's about to, he's putting it up. I'm not getting the ball. With Jokic, it's everyone is continually moving, screening. They know if they're open, Jokic is going to hit them, and that's what I think makes that team so good. Is everyone knows at any given point, anyone can get the ball and anyone can score, and that's.
But
it's that European style of basketball.
He definitely feels most comfortable. Like his 2-man game is with Murray. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's his. The two of them can pair up and take over a game at the end if they need to.
It's almost unstoppable. All right, let's move on to the East. So my dark horse, I think, and I hate it because a lot of my friends are Heat fans. I'm a Knicks fan. To me, the absolute dark horse in person, the team you do not want to play in a first round as a high seed would be the Miami Heat, 100%. Especially with the addition of Terry Rozier, who's probably averaging about like 20 points. He's only played 40 games this season, but he's averaging 20 points a game. And he's coming on fire towards the end of the season like he always does. They call him Scary Terry for a reason. We all know what the Heat did last year. They brought back their stars and they brought back the experience to make another run. As of right now, they're going to be playing the 76ers in the play-in. But they're the 8th seed, so even if they lose to the Sixers, they'll get another opportunity of the winner against the Bulls and the Hawks. So I think no matter what, the Heat are advancing to play either the Bucks or the Celtics. If I'm the Bucks, honestly, the Heat shot against the Bucks 44% from 3 and shot 50% from the field. And they won essentially a majority of the games in the series. And the Bucks have been so inconsistent. That's like a nightmare for me if I'm the Bucks with this new team going up against the Heat that can upset anybody at any moment. The Celtics, that'll be a tough series, and I feel like the Celtics towards the end of games are just a different team, and Jason Tatum's the epitome of a superstar that kind of comes up small in the fourth quarter. His field goal percentages, honestly, I looked them up in the fourth quarter. They're always below 40%. You look at the other big-time names in the league, Kevin Durant, call it LeBron, call it all the scorer big-time superstars, all their field goal percentages come up big when you draw it down to the fourth quarter, over 44% at least. And I think a lot of the Celtics fans can agree with me that if the game's close in the fourth quarter, if they're not totally clicking, they just look like a totally different team than we've seen throughout the year.
Yeah, no, I think
that's my dark horse to Miami Heat.
We've had this discussion off, but I think the Heat. If you make it to the championship, I think they made a mistake letting those three that carried them to the finals. I thought they should have held on to all three of them, and then tried to pick up another piece. But I think they were just so all in on Damian Lillard, they lost focus and they lost three critical pieces that allowed them to go. Because the reason they went to the finals was Strus, Vincent, and where'd Vincent end up on? Lakers?
Lakers, yeah.
And then I think they did keep one of them. But I thought they should have kept all that together and then tried to add a piece. I still agree with you, though. I think they're the dark horse. I like Rozier. And I think and they're also going to miss Kyle Lowry. Remember, he helped them out in the playoffs last year, too. That was the biggest change of the season.
Talk about a dark horse. Number one, I think, Kyle Lowry. You know who else they have on their team? One of your favorite players of all time, Heat. All time. The Australian sensation.
Oh, that's right. They
got Patty Mills, and that to me is.
Oh, that's right. They picked up Patty Mills.
So
he'll make up for one of those.
So he makes up for Kyle Lowry.
That's right. I forgot they signed him.
He makes up for Kyle Lowry, who across the entire season, a Heat fan could say, dude, what is he averaging? Like a point and a half a game, no assists and no rebounds. Like, why do we have this guy on the team? Come playoff time, Kyle Lowry's like dropping 30 and running the entire offense and leading the. Yeah. Not leading. I'm exaggerating, but.
Patty Mills.
Piece, but
Patty Mills is one guy. I agree.
If the series is close, if the game is close, throw Patty Mills out there, and on top of which they got a much more dominant shot creator and scorer in Terry Rozier.
Yeah,
I think that was the goal. They don't want to overpay a lot of those unexpectedly good players from the playoffs last year. They kind of wanted more reliable. If they're going to pay out that type of money, they ended up picking up Terry. They ended up picking up Patty for pretty much a discount, and I think they kind of made up for that. That's why. They're setting themselves up to do. I don't think they're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think if you're the 2 seed, if you're the 1 seed, it's like, okay, dude, of any of the playing teams, please do not give us the Heat. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree. One thing,
Oh,
Patty
so
Mills.
the
I agree.
76ers are technically a playing team
well,
now, too.
And
So
here's the other thing, though, right?
Forgot
the only
about
problem,
them.
before you go predicting them to go all the way, they've got to get past the Sixers and Embiid's back. So
no,
so they might get just bounced in the play.
No, that's the thing. So,
but they could go all the way.
My first thought was like, okay, what seed are they? They're playing the 76ers first. Yeah. No offense to Heat. No, I don't expect them totally to win that game because I mean, before Embiid came off the meniscus, he was essentially the MVP. Yeah. I think Jokic is the favorite now. Before he went down, he was kind of the favorite. If they lose that game, they still have another opportunity to play either the Hawks or the Bulls, and then they'll play the Celtics. So I think that no matter what, they're in the playoffs.
In fact, that's what they did last year. So didn't they lose the play-in and then?
Yeah, it was something along those lines. And I mean, let's be honest, they're not.
Yeah.
They'll beat either of those teams, the Hawks or the Bulls. So I think Sixers probably don't want to play the Heat to have the opportunity to play the Bucks.
Yeah,
but that's going to be a hard game. But
that's a really good matchup. But do they only play one game in that the 7-8? Is that one game? I think that's one game, and then the loser gets the winner.
I mean, they got Bam on a Embiid kind of coming off an injury, a little bit out of shape and whatever. So that it could be a fun game to watch. I would assume the Heat are going to lose that game. I think they're going to end up playing the Celtics. In which case, I think the Celtics are just going to be in for a lot more than they could handle. Yeah, I would assume they're going to win that series, but it's still just going to be.
Yeah, either way, the Celtics.
You never know.
The tough first round, man. They could get bounced in the first round like Milwaukee last year.
Yeah, the Celtics are like, wait a second.
And then they're going to lose.
The Sixers ended up playing. I think the Sixers made that trade earlier to get Buddy Hield and surround Embiid with some real shooters and actually space the floor out like he's kind of deserved his whole career.
Yeah.
But now the Celtics are going to have to play because the Sixers were, 2 or 3 before Embiid went down, and now Embiid's back. They're a playing team, and the Celtics are going to have to end up playing the Sixers in the first round. It's like a nightmare for them.
I thought Embiid looked, not playing-wise, he looked a little rusty. Yeah. But as far as physically, he looked good. I mean, he looked like he dropped weight and he was thin. I don't know whether he was lifting weights, dieting, or whatever, but he just looked a lot more, a lot less puffy than he did before he went out. I also
looked a little
think
fatigued though. By the
he was fatigued, but he just looked, looked like he was more in shape. I also think the Cavaliers are a dangerous team. They're kind of up and down. They have their roles where they're winning 18 out of 20, and then they might lose 5 out of 7. But they could go on a run, and they have the talent, in my opinion, if they put it together. But
I don't think they make it out of the Cavs. So the story with the Cavs Magic, the Magic narrowly won a few games when Donovan Mitchell wasn't playing, and the one time they won when Mitchell was playing, they limited him to 9 points. So the key to the game is limiting Mitchell. But how hard? You're not gonna be able to do that for 7 entire games. For 4 games. So when Mitchell is playing and playing well, aside from the games they won without Mitchell and the one time they won with Mitchell, put up over 30 points and they won the games pretty easily. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a series the Cavaliers should call it like a 4-2 win, something like that.
Well, yeah, but Magic's another, they're just one of those young teams that, they're surprisingly good when you watch them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So who knows? They could be like Oklahoma City where they just get moving in the playoff and they start, you got a lot of kind of banged up, slowish teams in the East, like the Knicks and the Sixers. You know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe the Magic. I just haven't watched enough of them to predict for them to go anywhere.
Yeah, and so I guess the final matchup to kind of put a button on it, I think the clear favorite in the East, Celtics. I think they're formally easily the best team in the NBA, but once you start looking at them in close games, it's hard to sit there and say they're an absolute lock anymore. Maybe in February, January, it was kind of very obvious, but as the season comes to a close and the amount of 30-point games they've blown, when you look at Jason Tatum's stats when it comes into the fourth quarter, they're a little bit of a question mark to me. The Bucks have been very inconsistent, so they're not a lock. The 76ers, if they can actually get back to what they were before Embiid went down, that's why the East is kind of wide open to me. But
yeah, I agree. Well, there's I heard some other people talking on a show about the Celtics or the house. Do you take the Celtics or the rest of the teams? And I would take the rest of the teams.
Oh, I see what you're
because
saying.
the Sixers could give them a run. The Heat could give them a run. The Bucks could give them a run. The Knicks could give them a run. Mm-hmm. You just said the Magic could. The Cavaliers certainly could. I mean, there's any one of 6 or 7 teams that could actually give them a series, which means they're going to have a lot tougher road to the finals than people are expecting.
The problem is, like, they abuse their mismatches so well. I think that people have been talking about Porzingis, how he's totally opened up that team. You have to look at teams that can, like, feasibly guard Porzingis with 2 separate players, and those are the teams I think that'll give him, like, huge trouble. I don't totally expect them to win the East, but I wouldn't be surprised if they run into someone like the Sixers, if they run into someone maybe like the Bucks. They got maybe like a Bobby Portis to help out Giannis to be guarding Porzingis. That could maybe give him some problems. The last series we have to talk about would be the Knicks versus Pacers. They split the series 1-2, meaning the Knicks won 1, the Pacers won 2, blowouts in 2, a narrow win in 1. In my opinion, with this series, if this is what it ends up being, I think defense is going to be a huge part because the Knicks, their offense has been strained and stretched to like the absolute maximum. And when they've played the Pacers this season, they've shot 32% from 3, which is absolutely terrible. And as a team, they shot 44% from the field. In their one win, they somehow limited Halliburton to 15 points, and Jalen Brunson dropped 40. I think we're gonna that is the only way they're gonna win that series is absolute defense, limiting Halliburton and that Miles Turner Halliburton duo, and it's gonna be another Jalen Brunson willing the team to victory. And then other series will play out differently, but to me, defense is gonna be the key there, at least for a Knicks win.
Yeah, the Knicks, man, love to watch them. Love the way they play. They're just understaffed. You know what I mean? Like they're limping into the playoffs, and they didn't have a real particularly great team to begin with. But they can beat anybody. They can even beat the Celtics. Not saying they will. I'm saying they could.
I don't think they could beat the Celtics.
I don't think they could. I'm saying they could, but they won't. I didn't say they will. I'm saying they could. They could. They beat the Celtics. I mean, they just beat them by, 15 the other day? And that was, a pretty important game.
No, but in a 7-game series, I feel like it's a little different.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The absolute most successful season, that would be blowing New York fans out of the water. I mean, like, New York, the streets will be filled with orange and blue, and everyone will be going excited. If they just have to make the Eastern Conference Finals, and to me, that's like a button, or what do you call it, a bow on such a great season where they don't really have, like, everyone has been stretched so far with all the injuries they've had to overcome. Jalen willing the team to victory. You have Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, who DiVincenzo's a mainly offensive player, but both those guys have been stretched so far thin and asked to do so much more than they normally otherwise would have. Josh Hart, he's had like 5 triple-doubles since January. I don't even know. I wonder if he even knew he can play that way and play up to that potential. So it's a testament to the entire team sticking together and probably playing better than they otherwise thought they could. Call that Jalen Brunson bringing out the potential. Call that Thibs sticking with and believing in his guys. Julius Randle isn't coming back. OG is, but that still is. There is no reliable shooting and scoring outside of Jalen Brunson. So I think that's why a lot of these series are going to come down to defense and 90s style, like, relentless play that they've shown the entire year and to win any series.
Well, no, I don't know. They've got the Villanova boys come up with DiVincenzo and Hart. I mean, they know how to win games and they know how to play, so they'll be all over. Every time I watch the Knicks, it's frustrating that they're down by 10. I go eat something and I come back and all of a sudden they're up by 5. Somehow those guys scrapped for loose balls and got it. But I think the big thing, if they can win a couple of series, I think the only way they're going to do it is if Mitchell Robinson can somehow stay healthy, Hartenstein can get healthy again, and OG can stay healthy. I mean, his elbow could flare up at any time. So,
But to me,
if the three of them are playing, then they got a shot to win some series until they run into the Celtics.
I think, but they got a shot. I'm just going to keep saying it. Defense is what they have a shot. Even Hartenstein. I mean, seeing him for the first time, I think last season, it was kind of like, okay, the Knicks are just still so mediocre. What do we just pay $100 million for Brunson? You want to talk about overpaying? What's going on? He's been an absolute anchor for that defense, surprisingly, since the beginning of this season. And now Miles McBride.
Oh, he doesn't look too bad either, yeah.
No, he was playing maybe 5 minutes a game earlier this season. Now he's up to, with all the injuries he's had to play like 30 minutes a game in some cases. And that, outside of Jalen Brunson, is what I mean. He's been a reliable weapon from deep and a reliable scorer, aside from maybe DiVincenzo and even Josh Hart. Love him. He's like, 6'4", putting up like 15 rebounds a game. Absolute hustle player. He shoots 30% from three, and maybe I would guess maybe 40% from the field. If the game's on the line, I expect him to make it, but throughout a game, it's all Jalen Brunson, and one guy aside from Jalen Brunson always ends up pulling his weight, maybe scoring over 20 points a game. But they need, to me, to advance and actually be finals contenders. OG's been a great addition, but I think it's kind of like the Thunder, where they were last year. Shai put up essentially the same numbers as this year. Mm-hmm. I would swear if you put the stats from last year onto this year, you wouldn't really tell. But they added Chet, and that opened up the entire offense. And it's not like Shai had to relinquish his stats in any type of way, but now they're a 3 seed. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So I think the Knicks still have that one player. They're probably still one player away from being finals contenders or legitimate threats in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I forgot. You always, Thibs is a very frustrating coach to watch. Mm-hmm. But his teams clearly overperform, especially in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I forgot about Bogdanovich. He doesn't seem to be playing. He's not kind of on his main rotation, but Bogdanovich is also a money player, mm-hmm. and he can make big shots, and he can carry a team in the playoffs. He can put up, 35 points if they can somehow get it. And he's a willing defender. He's not the greatest defender, but he does hustle. He does play. He doesn't stop playing. I forgot about him. So I think, if you add all that up, I mean, OG and Hartenstein, I have no idea how they can have the record that they have with Hartenstein as the center of that team. But you watch him, and with a bad Achilles, too. Mm-hmm. So he's hobbling, and he's, but they're doing it, so.
But that's what I mean as far as, like, the absolute potential being drawn out of these players because of these crazy injuries. Hartenstein might not be playing as much if Mitchell Robinson didn't go down, if Julius Randle didn't go down. They both did, and he absolutely stepped up to the plate, and call that coaching, call that whatever you want. But he's totally overperforming, like you said.
Yeah.
You just mentioned Bogdanovich. I would love to get the insight of playing for Thibs, because you remember Richard Hamilton when he was on the Bulls?
Yeah, he didn't play it.
Yeah, Bogdanovich. I remember the trade, and everyone was like, dude, we absolutely fleeced the Pistons. How do we get Alex Burks and Bogdanovich for what we gave up? Bogdanovich is going to be the missing piece, because like I was just saying, where Brunson needs another scorer, another option to take the load off. Dude, I feel like I never see him on the court. I want to know the insight to, like, okay, do you just make one mistake during practice and maybe complain a little bit, and Thibs is just like, dude, you're out. I'm not playing you anymore. You're done. Because he does that so much with players that you just don't expect it.
Yeah, like Bogdanovich hustles, okay? Richard Hamilton, man, he was a total hustle player. He played defense. Mm-hmm. I mean, he didn't stop running. He never played him. I don't know what it takes to get. Fournier. I mean, didn't play him. I mean, if you're down by 15 points, it's like, okay, can you stick him in there and make some three? Okay.
He's one of the guys we got rid of. It didn't make any sense. The guy, we needed shooting, we needed scoring. We had Fournier just like collecting dust on the bench.
Yeah.
Like what was that? What is with this guy?
I don't know. And why didn't they pick up Joe Harris? I mean, if nothing else, take a flyer on him, man. Like, pay him an NBA minimum, get him on your team, and see if he can still shoot. I know he can, man. That guy was absolutely the best shooter I've ever seen in games. And if you get him on and get him comfortable, and he also hustles too. I mean, he might have slowed down with his, knee or not Achilles, but his ankle or something. Maybe he slowed down. I haven't really seen him they didn't play him in Detroit, so I don't know what happened there. But he hustled. He played defense. I mean, he's not a guy that stands around or anything like that. He doesn't take plays off. I mean, why not? If you could have Bogdanovich and Joe Harris bombs away if you're down by 20 and you need to get back into a game.
That's the thing with Thibs. Bogdanovich would do essentially the same thing Joe Harris would for a team, and Bogdanovich, he's probably averaging 8 to 10 minutes a game. So there wouldn't be a point of kind of signing a guy like Joe Harris, even though it may make sense.
It wouldn't cost anything.
No.
I mean,
I don't get it.
Why not have the best shooting percentage of all time? And by the way, he's not a typical shooter. He does play defense, and he can get to the basket too. Anyway. We'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. All right, moving on to the Rookie of the Year. It's maybe in February it was a little bit more marginal between Chet and Wemby, but I think as time has gone on, it's a little bit more of a favorite towards Wemby. I don't really know if anyone's even mentioning Chet anymore. In my opinion, it's a little annoying, but it seems like Wemby's being ordained as the next face of the league, kind of like LeBron James was, which may be frustrating fans, may not be, but I think he's going to end up winning Rookie of the Year. He's got the stats, of course, but he's becoming one of those players where it's every other game. He's the first player with this, that, the other thing. He's the first player with this. And I'm going to run you some math real quick because a lot of them are very impressive. Mm-hmm. So hold on. Bear with me if you're watching. Truly listen to all these first I'm about to tell you because while it's annoying he's being ordained as the next face of the league because I think it would just naturally happen, try to truly appreciate what he's actually doing right now aside from maybe he's getting too much annoying coverage for a losing team or whatever. He is the first player in NBA history to register at least 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 threes, and 5 blocks in a game. And I think that sounds arbitrary to throw those together, but think about what he did. Wilt Chamberlain can post something like that, but it wouldn't be with 5 threes in a game. I think that's kind of like the personification of the new NBA center.
Yeah.
So he's the youngest player to have a 2020 game. He's the first rookie with 150 blocks, 150 assists, 50 steals in a season since San Antonio's Tim Duncan in 1997-1998. He's the youngest player to tally a 5-5 stat line. He's had the first 40-20 games since Shaquille O'Neal in 1993. He leads the NBA in blocks. He leads the NBA in blocks per game, so he's essentially even probably a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And Sunday was the 7th time this season Wemby has blocked at least 7 shots in a game. His season and career high came in February against the Toronto Raptors when he batted away 10 shots in a 23-point road win. Might as well throw in that he won the game. His team is basically last in the West or whatever. Doesn't matter. But when I mentioned earlier being like the personification of the modern big man and the modern center that can do it all inside, he can pass, of all those stats that I just listed, all being very impressive, I think one of the more impressive things is his pull-up 3 percentage from 3 has been as high as 47.9% over the past 20 games. So that's him handling the ball and just pulling up from 3. That's
who you're talking about?
Wembanyama.
Okay.
So he's pulling moves, coming off screens, and pulling up from 3 off the dribble as like a 7'5" center and drilling it and that's essentially unguardable.
No, I like him. I think he's got a future in the game. The only thing about him is he's losing. Okay, supposedly has a great coach. I've never been a big fan of Popovich, but he's losing. He does seem to be a little bit of a gamer, though, and he does get up for big games. And we do see the highlights and everything like that, but then you see the shooting percentages, the 3-point, I don't know what it is now, but it was hovering below 30%.
That's early in the season. So that's the other cool thing to note is if you look at his percentages earlier, like he was taking some wild, crazy shots early on, and it almost looked like, okay, well, was this guy just think he's back in France in the European League? Like he's
Yeah.
He's improved so much over time. It's crazy, and this might be the worst version we're seeing of him.
Yeah, no, and I do like little things. Like I said, I always look at how does a player do in big moments. That to me is more defining than anything else. And he does seem to get up, when he's playing against a good player, when he's playing in an important game, when he plays against Chet, that type of thing. But then it's like, yeah, but
blocked the shot to win the game. That's coming up big.
But how is he losing so much in all the games that we don't watch?
He has no team around him. Well, his best guard is like Trey Jones. That's it. Well, and essentially, aside from him, can you name another player? Name another player on the Spurs aside from Wembanyama.
But okay, I do like him, and I do also like that he doesn't care if he gets dunked on. And I thought that was an important thing. That always bothers me when players just walk away from trying to block a shot because they're worried about getting dunked on. And it's like, hey, it's part of the game. Try to block the shot. And he tries. Mm-hmm. And so, you got everyone there trying to dunk on him, and he's up for the challenge. So I do like that about him. The only thing I'll say about it is Chet's winning. I just like Chet's game. He just seems to be a gamer. He's got it all going on. He reminds me a little bit, though, of two really great, really coordinated, really talented, excellent defender, excellent ball handler players that were 7'4" and above, that kind of faded because they obsessed with their skills, okay? Ralph Sampson and Sean Bradley, okay? Go back and look at the highlight reels. They're the same thing. They were tall guys that could jump and could handle the ball and could pass and could do a lot of things, and they never became winners. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if Popovich is a great coach anymore. I don't know if he understands today's game. I know people will laugh at that, but I haven't seen him do anything. I think he kind of ticked off everybody on the Olympic team and was playing with, yesterday's game, and they all felt like they could have done a lot better with a different system. So he might get held back, and he might languish. So we'll see what happens. Right now, I would take Chet. I like him.
No, yeah, you would take Chet, but I think Popovich has taken this year, like I said early in the season, Wemby was like out of control, pivoting off 1 foot, shooting fadeaways, airball, whatever.
Yeah.
He's taken this year to develop him into potentially, hopefully, when the team actually gets some players, and he's coming back. Right.
He's doing the same playbook, tanking this year, getting 2 number 1 overall picks, and number 2, number 3, and getting 2 superstars.
It's rebuilding.
Yeah,
to me.
But that's how he got Robinson and Popovich. I mean Robinson and Duncan. He got Robinson, and I think Robinson got injured or something, so he had another 15 and 65 year, and then he got Duncan. You know what I mean? And so he's doing the same thing again.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's right to compare Wembanyama to like any player we've ever seen before.
But it is,
No, it's not. Even all the stats I just read,
they're the same. I know, I agree.
Physically,
he's
they're
much
not really
better. He's doing things. Samson did do well in
but
the first
I wouldn't
couple of
take
years.
coordinate. Like they're not. They are not the same to compare physically if you're talking about what height and weight. But that's like where it ends.
Height, weight, and they could jump, and they had ball skills, and they were not uncoordinated. They were different. They were even more.
They were different, right?
Yeah, Bradley and Sampson were the same skill-wise and athletically as Wembanyama, whatever his name is.
Could they shoot further than Did they ever shoot further from 7 feet from the rim?
It might have even been before 3-point line. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But they didn't. But big guys didn't shoot back then.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is a guy who's 7'5" pulling up 47% from 3 is much different than anything we've ever seen before, ever.
It didn't exist back then.
Right.
Big guys didn't shoot. Their problem was, they wanted to. But we'll see. I'm not putting him. I'm just saying.
In terms of the Rookie of the Year race, I think it's unfortunately kind of already decided because of all that I listed before, all the firsts that he just keeps collecting over and over and over again. But long term, what I like is it seems like the West is kind of in good hands, and you saw it with the mentality of both players after Chet missed pretty much all of last season. He hasn't missed one game this entire season.
Yeah.
And Wemby, call him whatever you want, he's a competitor. You saw him in the skills competition with his face like, guys, I'm here to win. When Anthony Edwards was shooting with his left hand, you saw his face like, well,
no, he's
guys, are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing here? Chet, I think in the long term, like I was saying earlier, where Shai pretty much had the same season last year in terms of stats. If you copy and pasted those numbers to this year, it would be the same. The only difference is the seed of the team. Who unlocked that team? Chet Holmgren. You know what I mean?
I agree.
He's totally not the same type of body type as Wemby, but put him on the three-point line, all of a sudden that gives Shai so much more space than he otherwise would have. Every other player now has a lot more room to move.
Yeah.
They're driving, they're dishing, and on top of which Chet is playing like more efficient than a lot of other people we've seen. So, I mean, the impact he's had this year compared to last season. So last season they went 40 and 42. This is before Holmgren. Last season they went 40 for 42. They were 24th in field goal percentage, and they were 17th in three-point percentage. On defensive end, they were 22nd in blocks and 4th in steals, but their guards have always been great defensively. Even last year, I think Shai was got a steal and a half a game. This year, 53 and 25 as of today. They're a 3 seed. They are 3rd in field goal percentage compared to last year's 24th. This year, they're 1st in three-point percentage compared to last year's 17th. They are 1st in blocks and 2nd in steals. And that's just, there's other players on the team, but in terms of opening them up offensively and defensively and allowing every other player to reach their full potential, Chet might not win Rookie of the Year because of all the stat lines Wemby's putting up. But long term, I'm not saying one will be more worth than the other, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those guys.
No, and here's the other thing. Now, what would Chet be doing if he was on San Antonio, and what would Wemby be doing if he was on Oklahoma City? They'd probably reverse their statistics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
It wouldn't be all about.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, some of these, I would not.
He'd still have
put it on Chet to be putting up those types of statistics. I think the Spurs will probably be in the same seed they are right now with Chet, and Chet would be maybe averaging more points, and his usage rate would be much higher. I think Wemby's usage rate right now is 31.3%, only behind Luka, Giannis, and Shai. He's 5th in usage the entire. So I think Chet would probably get that same usage rate and put up more stats, but I wouldn't say that it would be a direct translation.
I see Chet as more of a team fit in and a team player. And if you want to compare these two as Russell versus Chamberlain, whereas the one guy will probably end up doing a lot better over the course of his career, and in terms of winning, and the other guy will probably have more stats. We'll see what happens. I'll talk to you in 20 years.
Yeah, the point is they are both. It's unfortunate. It's like both these guys are. When I have grandkids, I think everyone in the NBA is pretty much just going to be Wembanyama and Chet and everything like that. But they're the absolute personification of like the modern big man that can absolutely do it all, and because they're so tall and big and can shoot so efficiently, they open it up for everybody on the court, and that's where the NBA is moving. I don't know where it started, but I guess it started with like Nowitzki, even though he couldn't handle as well, but I think the original Chet and the original Wemby, it's probably like Kevin Durant or something like that.
You know what? I see teams starting to get like in hockey, you have the enforcer. In basketball, teams are going to have to get guys like
Draymond.
No. The Purdue guy. Oh, Zach Edey. Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
How would Chet and Wemby handle Zach Edey? I don't think they'd be able to. I'm not a big fan of Zach Edey. I don't know if he's going to make it in the pros. You know what I mean? He's too slow defensively, but it's the same thing like Robert Williams used to be on the Celtics, where when you throw those guys in there that are just so big, these guys can't handle them. The guy on Cleveland, Jared Allen, he looks like a great defender until he gets abused by like Embiid, Robert Williams, and a guy like Edey. And so if teams start to pick up players like him,
it's unfortunate. I think this draft class is really weak, but because Zach Edey really didn't do anything outside of like maybe 5 feet around the paint. But like you said, every single center, including Burns, which he's built like a defensive lineman, and Connecticut center Klingen's face, I saw it on the slow-mo when he posted up on Edey for the first time trying to defend him. Edey's not like one of these, like Chet or Wemby, where he's 7'6" and it looks like an absolute stick. Klingen's face was just like, and Burns too, they were both just, okay, whoa, I cannot handle this guy. He's so big and strong, it's ridiculous. He lacks the defense and the willingness to defend, and on top of the shooting. So I don't know if he'll directly translate to the NBA.
I don't think he will, but I think there's a
He's
role.
solid.
I think there's a role for him.
Exactly.
And I think it'll be like, okay, how are you gonna? How is Wemby and Chet Holmgren gonna handle somebody like him?
Yeah, for sure.
Just the load that you can throw out there. That hey, there's none of these other small, agile 3-point shooting centers can handle. So we'll see. Maybe there is.
No, that's the thing with him.
I saw that with him though too. I saw his face.
Bro, everyone's face when they guarded Edey was just like they all just looked so surprised. Like, okay, whoa! I thought I was strong.
Wow.
I'm 7'1". I'm Burns. I weigh probably 300. No one has been able to handle me this whole tournament, and he even was just like dead after the first. Like, didn't look like he could move. So that's good to give Zach Edey his flowers. But I think he's going to end up being kind of like a role player. So I guess we'll move on to the MVP race in the NBA. I think overall, the way everyone's talking about it, Jokic is number one. But there are two guys, in my opinion, that are kind of like nipping on his heels. So Jokic overall, I'll just go over some of his stats for a little bit of context. He's averaging 26 as of April 10th. He's averaging 26.4 points per game. He's averaging 12.4 rebounds and 9 assists with 1 steal and 1 block. And not only that, and not only probably being the most important person on his team based on those statistics, he's doing it with a field goal percentage of 58% and a 3-point percentage of 34%. These two next guys are nipping on Jokic's heels. Shai, and I think the argument with him is not only does he get it done on both ends of the court, but he's doing it much more efficiently than we've seen any guard do it in a very, very, very long time. So Shai is averaging 30 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block. And not only is he averaging all those points a game, but he's doing it with 53% from the field and a 37-point 3-point percentage. But to me, he did that last season, and they were 40 and 42 or something like that. So I don't love Shai as the MVP. To me, especially over the last 25 games, if there was someone that was going to win the MVP aside from Jokic, I think it's got to be Luka Doncic from on the Mavericks. He's averaging 33.9 points per game, 9 rebounds and 10 assists. He's shooting 38% from 3 and 48% from the field. A lot of people kind of criticize him for just being a total shot jacker, ball dominant, whatever, but his true shooting percentage kind of counteracts everything, all that kind of narrative, and he's shooting 62% as his true shooting percentage. Oh no, and even with this push to the playoffs where I think they might have been like an 8th seed at one point earlier in the season, the past 10 games he's averaging relatively the same points. From 3, he's averaging 46%. He's totally willing his team to the playoffs, and it's kind of crazy. I think my knock on him for MVP is he's not getting it done at both ends of the floor. If you watch Mavericks in large part, you kind of see him, it's kind of like a LeBron James effect where you see him, hands at his side, almost just taking the play off to like save energy for offense or something like that. And if I think Jokic should win MVP, an argument against me saying that would be, what is Jokic? Jokic doesn't play defense. I mean, have you seen the guy run? He runs like he's got bricks on his feet. He's totally uncoordinated. I'm going to dispel that right now with some advanced statistics that I found online, because as someone, I would say I watch the Nuggets, not as like a number one fan, but I do watch a lot of Nuggets games because they're on prime time. Whenever they play good teams, I always watch. And maybe he doesn't necessarily have the defensive traditional statistics, but if you watch him intently, you can see, oh, wait, he's hustling on both ends of the floor. If someone comes in anywhere near him, he is stepping up. He's always putting a hand up. Why do people always call him a poor defensive player? When I look at the advanced statistics per game for Jokic, you can almost make an argument that it should be like all NBA defense. So when you look at the advanced defensive stats, the defensive Raptor, which is calculated by 538, he is second in the league, and that puts him among names like Draymond, Brook Lopez, and Anthony Davis. Brook Lopez, who was, did he win Defensive Player of the Year last year, or he was runner-up or something like that?
Yeah, he was up there for it.
But so when he's number 2 in the defensive Raptor statistic by 538, and that puts him, and it's not some BS statistic where you can look at an outlier where, okay, he's not a good defender, what he's doing there. Exactly. You look at the other names, and he's number 2 among the 4 traditionally great defensive players. He's number 3 defensive rating in the league, and that's behind Wembanyama and Gobert, who are both up for Defensive Player of the Year. And I filtered, by the way, these statistics by a minimum of 2,000 minutes played per 82 games by a player in the league during the regular season. So I didn't do it in totality. I did put some filters to make sure that we got like the best players with the most amount of minutes without injuries. And he's 4th with that same filter. He's 4th in the league in defensive rebounding. So that points to the hustling I was talking about. He's 6th in deflections this year and 8th in deflections per game. So if you take all the advanced statistics and if you watch him intently and watch him on both ends of the floor and say, well, he's hustling on defense, he just looks like an injured gazelle when he runs, so people just assume he's not doing anything. All the advanced statistics point to a Jokic that is arguably all defensive NBA.
No,
it's crazy.
I like his defense. I mean...
and that's all the more argument, by the way, for him being an MVP. Luka, what he's doing is incredible, and the offense points to like one of the greatest offensive players of all time, one of the greatest scorers of all time. He's willing that team into the playoffs, and hopefully, I don't think he has a chance to go above the 5th seed, but compared to what they were 3 months ago, compared to now and how he's playing, I get why people are saying that. He's not getting it done on both ends of the floor like I just laid out how Jokic is.
No, I agree. I like, I like Jokic's defense. He gets his hands on a lot of balls. Mm-hmm. He's in the right place. A lot of defense around the basket is position, and he's a master at that. So I've never had a problem with his defense. Mm-hmm. Luka, I've never been a huge fan. I mean, I do like a lot of things he does, and I think he'd be an annoying guy to play with because he's one of those shoots and then looks at you funny if you do something wrong. I think and I will say this, and I would watch the Mavericks in years past and get frustrated because fourth quarter runs around and he turned into give me the ball, let me shoot. Kind of like Carmelo used to do with the Knicks, where it's all him. He's gonna if he gets triple covered, he's not passing off. He's still gonna jack the shot, and they would lose. I suspect that what's finally happening, it took a while because it wasn't happening at first with Kyrie, but I haven't watched him during this latest winning streak, is he's allowing Kyrie, who can really take over a game in the fourth quarter and he will make the shots. Mm-hmm. Luka would miss shots in the fourth quarter because he'd be tired or whatever. Kyrie's making the shots. I suspect Kyrie's more taking over the games in the fourth quarter. I don't know. But, that's probably helping him in his percentages and have another star on the team that he can kind of like turn the ball over to mm-hmm. and not have to feel like he has to take over the game. He's not a great defender, but he does do some really magical things on the court. I just don't think he's an MVP because if you're talking about a guy who's taken his team deep consistently and doing everything mm-hmm. versus a guy who's a pretty good offensive player. You know what I mean? That's what. No, he's not. Okay. To cast he's a pretty good offensive player to the numbers he's putting up. Well, the true shooting percentage. To me, when I say somebody's a pretty good offensive player, he's all time. Kyrie's also a pretty good offensive player. Okay. That's old school way of saying like he's good. Yeah. I wouldn't want to cover him. Good. And Shai is just not there yet. I mean, he's definitely. I think he's there, but the narrative aspect of MVP, when you take it strictly for the definition of like most valuable player in the league for their team, the Nuggets they still have Murray.
and everything like that. But you can see when Jokic goes down, they are just like an out of the playoffs type of team.
Yeah.
Luka, they still have Kyrie and a lot of supporting pieces, but you can argue that the Mavericks weren't the Mavericks they are now until they made those trades at the deadline and drafted Derek Lively last year. The Thunder was Shai putting up the same numbers he put up last season. He's only an MVP candidate because of the seed of their team. To me, the main reason they're there is who unlocked that offense. It's Chet. He's still putting up the same. So in terms of the narrative of the definition of what an MVP is, not only does Jokic have all the statistics, not only is he a good defensive player like I laid out, but he's also the most valuable player to his team because they really are not that good without him. The other two, it's a little bit of the opposite.
Yeah, no, I have tried to watch. I know a lot of people are excited about Shai, and he is good, and I have watched him a little bit. Mm-hmm. But every time I watch them, not saying I don't notice him, but he doesn't stand out to me as being a particularly great player.
Exactly.
There's a lot of really good young players on that team, and he's one of them. But he's putting up some big numbers, so it does help to have other guys on the team that can shoot, especially big guys, because he doesn't ever have to worry about a 6'9" guy coming out and trying to block his 3-point shot because that guy's over on Chet.
That's my big feeling with Shai is, I mean, you definitely notice him when he's on the court, and late in the game, it's clear that he's the guy they're going to win the game. He is Mr. Efficient, like I said, but you kind of sometimes get the feeling that the stats he's putting up or the stats he's averaging is kind of like overrating his case for MVP.
Yeah.
Because like you're right, the eye test and the MVP, for the definition that it is, you watch the Thunder and go, this is a very, very, very good team. Their MVP candidate doesn't look like necessarily the most valuable player on that team.
Right. And maybe he'll never win an MVP. I do really respect guards that shoot 50%.
That's
you know
exactly.
What I mean? Like Kyrie shoots 50%. He's the only one I could think of that shoots around 50%. And so that does mean that he's selective with his shot. He's not a shot jacker. He shoots when he's open, and he's probably good. I just haven't been wowed by him any time that I've seen him.
Exactly. The efficiency is what brings him to the MVP caliber, and it's deservedly so. Let's be honest. I mean, they are a 3 seed. He is putting up the stats, but just in terms of the definition of the MVP, it's almost like the Jason Tatum syndrome. He can have he could have the stats to back him up. But he's always been on such a good team that people kind of say, okay, he could potentially be the best player on the team. But at the end of the day, so you can ask a Celtics fan, some of them would prefer Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum if you're going to choose one or the other.
Taking in the fourth quarter, I'll take Jaylen Brown.
Who unlocked that team this year compared to, he's been there, he's probably 25, he's been there for about 6 years. They're championship contenders now because they signed Porzingis. You know what I mean? Now, it's not necessarily all. It could be an MVP candidate. He does deserve buzz, but Jason Tatum at the end of the day is probably never going to win MVP because of how good the teams he's been on.
Yeah.
So
I think they're going to miss Marcus Smart, but we'll see what happens.
Well, they're number one. The thing is, late in games, he brings them together late in games.
He also would make big shots. He wasn't a shooter, but he made big shots.
We'll see. So I guess to close it all out, we laid out the MVP arguments for a lot of players, but who they don't deserve the MVP candidate, but they deserve some buzz to you, like just some acknowledgement to what they've provided to their team. Do you have anybody?
Well, Brunson, of course.
Yeah, okay. I led you right into that one. What is this team without Brunson?
Oh no, Brunson is a true MVP. I mean, you could give him the award.
Over Shai. I don't know about over Shai, but
I mean, over Jokic you could get, but I'm not saying like he has the same type of impact on his team.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. When I was talking about the definition of most valuable player, where you take it for its definition, I'm assuming Jaylen probably doesn't have the averages like these guys. I mean, I'm not assuming he doesn't. But take him off the Knicks and they're one up from last place. They're just, you know what I mean? If they win a playoff series, if they make it anywhere in the playoffs, it is because of their most valuable player, Jalen Brunson.
He's the true definition of MVP. I like Devin Booker, man. I just think he's a great player. And he never gets talked about, but he should be in it. And you got
He should always be in the conversation. But give him, that's what I mean. Give him some buzz, give him some love. Not that they're MVP candidates this year. And the main one, who I don't totally understand. I mean, I guess once they had the coaching change, they've kind of had a losing record. But Giannis' stats this year have been nothing short of absolutely incredible. At the time of recording this, he's averaging 30, 11, 6. So that's 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.2 steals, a block. And he's doing it. I mentioned field goal percentage for these other guys being like in the 50s. He's doing it on 61% shooting, and the Bucks right now are the 2 seed. Yeah. But I don't really see that many people. It's always Jokic, Shai, and Luka. I'm not saying Giannis should be the MVP, but can I hear his name mentioned a little more? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my guy. So to me, aside from Brunson, no surprise. I mean, you can look at the stickers on my laptop. We are kind of Knicks fans, so that's why he came up. But Giannis, in my opinion,
nobody on the Clippers,
at least in the mainstream media or mainstream.
Oh, the Timberwolves everything. Guy.
Gobert and Towns.
No, Anthony Edwards.
Oh yeah, but he's.
I think he's a few years away.
Yeah, exactly. That's about it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Oh, Jimmy Butler. Throw him in there.
No, man. I'll give Jimmy Butler some love.
He's an MVP, but he's a Brunson type of MVP.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good comparison. If you want to talk about buzz, you want to talk about impact on a team, that's Jimmy Butler is the same as probably Jalen Brunson. You know what I mean? Not totally, but I see what you mean. And if the Heat last year made it to the finals, the Heat this year do anything in the playoffs, it's probably going to be Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
so,
he's an MVP. He's, he should be in the conversation every year.
It's ended like we normally do. Boom.
Oh.
We got end of episode 2. The goal is to get episodes out every single week. We're a little early on now, so the goal is to get these out weekly. Of course, first episode, the goal is, okay, we're going to film it, we're going to edit it, whatever. It took me a lot longer to edit it than I thought, and external factors, I went to go buy a car, and pretty much all I was doing for the past week. It was a little bit of an emergency too. Maybe I'll reveal what I bought. Hopefully I get it by the time this comes out. So I guess that concludes this episode of Barbershop Talk. We're hoping next week there's going to be an episode. I have a wedding to go to for one of my family members. We're going to try to do the podcast remotely. We'll see how that goes. So the video might be of me, and then he might be kind of like on the phone tuning in. We're going to try to figure that out. But if that doesn't happen, we'll see you when we see you. Hopefully the NBA season hasn't finished. But no, the next episode will probably be a lot of playoff preview and hopefully some other news in other sports. Until then, remember, the conversation starts with us, but it finishes with you guys. Make sure to add your comments, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow. On Instagram, I see we're close to 3,000. We're 30 away. What's that, like a relatively popular girl in high school type of numbers we're going? But I'm truly excited and truly thankful that people are starting to like the content and follow. Let's keep it going to the next episode and beyond. We got products coming out. We got merch coming out. We got everything coming out. It's all happening slowly but surely on my time. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Hasta luego for the Spanish-speaking audience.